Yo, what's good? It's your boy Dot from Dot Me Now Coaching and Entertainment for coaching my links are down below. I also have a very cheap $10 Patreon down below too. It has mad fire wisdom. Now, in today's video, we are going to be talking about the illusion of planets, why they appear, how they appear, the functions of planets, at least in our solar system. They may be a bit different inside of other star systems, but I had an experience literally last night slash early morning, and I'm going to share that with you guys. Now, if that sounds good, I would like to ask that you like this video, subscribe if you're new, and maybe if you see the option, you could also hype up this video. It really help out your boy, help get the message out there and stuff like that. Let's get right into today's video. Alright, so last night in general, while I was awake, I was just tapping into mad stuff. It didn't even always deal with the planets. I was just seeing mad stuff, bro. Like I couldn't even explain half of it, but I'm bringing that up because last night, as I was tapping in, at some point, I could feel my deceased father around me, and he was giving me certain information. Now, with that being said, because I was hooked up to that energy, when I was in the astral, he actually came to me, right? So because I've already been trying to understand more about the structure of this physical plane in particular. Since I've already learned about the 12 planes, which, by the way, on Patreon, I just dropped a video about how the 12 zodiac signs are pretty much linked to the 12 planes. That's a fire video. But I've already learned about like the 12 planes as a whole. Now I'm learning about the specific structure of the physical plane and the different levels of that, right? So while doing that, I've come to understand that, like when it comes to planets, planets are not what they seem. Like while inside this physical plane, you might dead ass perceive a planet. I mean, shit, you could look through a telescope right now and see planets. Like that's a thing, right? But if you go outside the physical plane, you see how you can't really perceive planets. You can still like perceive stars as light coming in from higher planes into this plane, but you don't really see planets, and that's because planets are purely something which exists within inside of the physical plane. At least the when it comes to like the starlight, the light that makes up stars that comes from outside of this plane, but the planets themselves are literally attached to this plane. So last night my dad took me to like this observatory, right? That's the best word I have for it. It was like a space observatory, right? And I don't know really where it was, but I just know that nigga I was out of body. And with that being said, I was able to see space outside of me, right? And I was able to see the planets in our solar system, but I couldn't see other planets which should have been there. Like I was able to look at because like as I looked at certain shit, it's like the space would kind of like move. Like some shit would come closer to me or move farther away from me. And there's a certain location where I knew that there should be a certain planet because there's been times where like I've left my body. Cause like if you guys don't know, I have left my body and I have been in space and I have seen like planets. But I've also had experiences when you look at the physical plane from outside of it and you don't see planets. So I never understood that shit, you know? I've understood it at some points. Like I was told before that planets are really just aspects of the sun. It's like they're like conduits and transducers of solar energy. It's like every single planet conducts solar energy and then will send it to the earth, which is why astrology actually works, right? But they're not they don't really work how we think that they work. And I understand more about why that is. So what I'm trying to say is I looked at a certain area, right, where before I have seen a planet there, like I've seen a planet there and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I've learned shit at that planet. Of course, like I said, if you go outside the physical plane, you don't see a planet there, right? And even in this experience that I had, when I was trying to look for the planet, I couldn't see it. It's weird though. I could see like an outline of like where a planet could have been at, but there was like no planet there. And I don't know if my dad told me this, if the beings that were there told me this, or if I just got this info from my spirit. It's probably a mix of all three. And if it's not a mix of all three, it's definitely just my spirit for sure. Because I feel like I already kind of knew this shit while I was looking at it. It's like I understood that if I flew over there and was within inside of the field of that star, I would possibly be able to perceive a planet, right? But because I'm not inside the field of that star, I cannot see that planet. And it was explained to me, right? I kind of just understood this, the fact that when light is shining through what's inside of the universe, it projects a holographic image of planets. And I put quotes because it's not a hologram that like you can move your hand through. It can appear solid. But even then, right? Even when you're inside of like higher planes, even beyond the physical plane, you can still interact with certain things as if they're physical, mainly because if you're inside of a certain, like let's say you're inside like the architectural plane, right? When you're inside that plane, that's the sixth plane, by the way, where the architects live at. When you're inside that plane, you can be made of architectural matter. You could say, quote unquote, architectural matter, right? And the beings there could also be made of quote unquote architectural matter, right? So because of that, when you touch, it's like you guys are made of the same kind of matter. Therefore, it's like it kind of feels physical, right? That's like one example of why certain things can feel physical. Also, when it comes to your senses, you could just be tuned inside of your brain to touch something as if it's physical, you know? Because even right now, what we call physical is just light particles. We're just light particles interacting. And it's actually said that we never touch anything and that what we really feel is just like the pressure between the particles or something like that. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard that before with science and shit like that. But my point is, right, planets are like a holographic projection of a star. And I want to show a picture to you guys real quick of an actual hologram, right? So you see this whale, right? Or a dolphin. This might be a dolphin. I don't know. It's some type of sea animal. You see how like you have like this flat film that makes a holographic image once light moves through it. That's how holograms work. You have like a flat image. Then when you shine the light through the image, it can produce a three-dimensional object, right? Now, of course, with stuff like this, it's made of pure light, so you can't really touch it, right? But even then, what we call matter is pure light. It's just condensed light, essentially, right? So it's a holographic projection. That's what it is. And I already made a video kind of about this, but like I learned more about it last night, you know? And something else that kind of got expanded to, and hold on, let me see if I should even get there yet. Let me actually say this. So imagine that with this physical plane, right? Inside this physical plane, you have certain programming on a flat plane. And then when light shines through that flat plane, it projects all the information as three-dimensional images, right? Which is why the three-dimensional images only exist within inside of the plane, right? The light that shines through the plane comes from outside the physical plane. So outside the physical plane, you can still see the stars, right? But you don't see the planets because the planets are a part of the holographic projection. You see? And when it comes to how your brain works, right? I don't fully get how this fully works, but I will say that I did understand a bit about this while I was had the experience. When you get inside the vicinity of a star, your brain in like, because like even with your brain's not just physical. You have like an etheric brain, for example, right? You have an astral brain and shit like that. I think that's like as far as it goes, like etheric and astral brain. I don't know if you have like a brain inside the other higher planes, you know. But I know like with etheric and astral, you have like an etheric brain and an astral brain for sure. Anyway, your brain will like tune itself to the information of the star and then see the projections of that star. And even without that in-depth science, to see it as if you're inside that vicinity, like for example, let's say like if I'm like super far away from this picture, I might not even see the hologram. Once I get near the light though, I can see the hologram, for example, right? So that's why when I was looking at certain places where I knew that there would be certain quote unquote planets at, I didn't see no planets. I just saw the stars around it. But if I went to the star, I would have got my shit tuned to the fucking projection of that star, I would have actually seen what it is. But I have been taught that the sun and other stars work differently, which I think I understand, but I don't fully yet. So I'm not gonna really speak on that because I don't want to speak on that shit and then be wrong and then look like I'm a fucking lying ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? So long story short, bro, I was also shown other things, right? At some point I was able to go on like this stand inside the observatory, and it was taking me up above the earth and the solar system and stuff like that, and it was showing me these different cubes, and every single cube was a dimension. Now when I say a dimension, I don't mean a plane, I don't mean a certain place. No, I'm using the word dimension in the way that it's literally used on earth, not by people who just say the word, but by how we actually define the word. The word dimension is a measurable extent of some kind. For example, length, width, height, time, space, length, width, height, time, space, light. These are dimensions. These are measurable extents which you can measure. You can measure light through luminosity. You can measure time through speed and how long something takes. Oh, so that'd be speed and duration. You could measure what's it called space through the area of the space and stuff like that, right? You can measure, these are measurable extents of some kind, right? So with that being said, let me actually put my fucking, actually, should I keep this picture up? I'll keep this picture up for now. I'm gonna put my background back up though in a little bit. Long story short, right, when it comes to the dimensions, I was shown around. I remember 24 for a fact. There could have been up to 27 and probably even more, but I was seeing up to 24, and it was reminding me of of string theory. I never really studied string theory, but from what I've heard, in string theory, they suppose that this universe is connected by different strings which kind of weave together, and like these strings are like dimensions and stuff like that. I don't fully get the theory, but it kind of reminded me of string theory a bit, so I might research that. Because even though I say terms like holographic universe, I have been told while learning, because I already was learning about that a little bit ago, so when I had this experience I kind of understood it way more. And I've actually talked to other people who understand that planets don't really exist how we think, and certain things I was saying was resonating with them also. I just want to put that out there real quick. But what I'm trying to say is, right, I was shown these different cubes, and every single cube was a different dimension, which pretty much weaves together the universe, right? Because without dimensions, there's no structure to the universe. The dimensions are what literally structures the universe. Like with the term dimensional spaces, right? Stars are fixed dimensional spaces. So when you go to them, they're portals to a certain space where the dimensions are tuned differently. So like you go to a certain space, time may work a bit different there. Light may appear a bit different there. Even intelligence and will, right? Willpower is measured by the ability that one has to act, right? How much can you actually act, right? That's your willpower. That's how you measure it, right? Intelligence is measured by how much one person knows, and kind of how a person knows things, like how a person thinks and shit like that, right? You measure it through things like that. My point is, right, inside certain spaces, even the intelligence might work a bit different there, you see? And by the way, you could also measure awareness is a dimension which is measured through states of consciousness. People tend to use consciousness and awareness interchangeably, but conscious, subconscious, and unconscious are different states of awareness. You measure how aware you are through the consciousness which you have. If you're unconscious, you're not that aware. If you're subconscious, you're partially aware. If you're fully conscious, you are fully aware. So that's what that means. So that is why things like intelligence, will, and awareness are also dimensions. And I was always taught in the past that awareness, intelligence, will, light, space, time, length, width, and height. I was told that those are the 9 main dimensions which other dimensions could form from. Like you have sound and gravity, which are pretty much aspects of different dimensions, right? So I'm saying all of this because I was shown like 24, there could have been 27, but I remember 24 for a fact. And it was pretty much just, like, I don't know what the dimensions really were. I couldn't say the first one was this, the 24th was that, but I was just shown how, like, because cubes are like a symbol of like structuring things, right? And dimension structure creation. So I was pretty much being shown how different dimensions help to structure our solar system and the greater aspects of this universe, right? Because like I said with dimensional spaces, you go to a certain space and those dimensions are tuned a bit differently. So with that being said, light is a certain dimension. And light helps to structure what we call planets because light is what pretty much projects through the physical plane in order to make certain projections like what we perceive as planets, you see? And even with the CIA, inside of the Gateway document, they mention the holographic aspects of the universe. I don't know fully what they talk about because I haven't really read that shit. I've read certain parts of it. I know that one part, they talk about how like the part encodes the whole. So like with a hologram, right? Imagine like this is what has the picture of this dolphin. If you took one piece of this picture off and expanded it, you'd see the whole entire dolphin. So like every single part of the greater hologram actually holds the great picture of it. So even with the universe, right? If you take a small speck of the universe and expand it, you would see the whole universe inside. You if you took one small speck of the universe and then expanded it, you would see the whole universe within inside of that speck. So yeah. But the main thing that happened in the experience was I was taken to that observatory. I was able to see the planets inside our solar system. But even with the way I was seeing them, it's like I was able to see them in a way that makes it very clear that these are holographic projections of our sun. And then I'm gonna assume with other planets that those are holographic projections from that star. But once again, I will say this. I've heard that stars and our sun work a bit different and that pretty much I'm kind of under an assumption that like our sun is like the main projector, maybe. But that could just be the main projector for like our solar system, for example, what we call our solar system. And I also want to bring this up too. I've watched secret space program videos where like they'll go to different planets, but even with how they go, right? Like they don't usually say like they just float. Like usually I don't think they go through like a spaceship, right? Like I forgot what some of them said inside those videos, but I know they use density chambers for a fact. Like they'll use a density chamber in order to change their density and shit like that. And like I don't know. I just want to say with secret space program stuff, it starts to make more sense why they can do shit like that if planets are just holographic projections. But once again, that doesn't mean that you can't touch the planet. You know, like it's still gonna appear solid because that holographic light is gonna condense to a certain form of matter. You know. So yeah, I ain't like I fully understand everything about this shit, but I definitely do understand that planets are for a fact holographic projections of the sun. At least when it comes to our planets inside our solar system, which is why astrology works also, because the planets are literally just holding certain aspects of the sun's light. It's like you have the sun that projects all of the light possible, and then it needs to kind of be mediated through planets so that way you have different aspects of the light. It's kind of like how you have the color white, which is an expression of all colors, and then you could split off that white into red, blue, yada yada yada, right? Because black holds all colors, white projects all colors. You know what I'm saying? But you could break that. You could break down every individual color within inside of black and white. The same with the sun. The sun has all these energies, right? Like Mars deals with aggression. Uranus deals with reformation. Mercury deals with like intellect, right? These are all energies which the sun holds, but it's mediated through the different planets. And that's why when certain planets move a certain kind of way with certain alignments, you experience certain shit. That's just a fact. We're not gonna deny astrology right now. You know what I'm saying? That shit definitely works. So yeah, bro. That's kind of what oh, this is the wrong image. That's kind of what I saw last night. And it was really dope because I definitely understood a lot of shit while I was there. But when I woke up, I was like, damn, I should have asked a certain question about X, Y, and Z. But you know, it's all good. At least now I have better understanding of why certain shit is structured how it is, and why you can perceive certain shit while inside the physical plane, but you don't perceive it outside of it. Which is why I remember, like, if you guys saw me on that interview. Oh, I'm gonna mention something else too. There's more to this video, so don't click off. But you guys might have saw in an interview, or I want to say it was a conversation, not an interview. With the conversation that I had with the alchemist and Bam, right? Somebody asked a question about, like, is the earth flat? And I was like, I don't know how to answer that, because, like, in the most highest sense it technically is, but it's not even just the earth, it's the whole universe. The physical plane is a plane of existence. But while you're inside of it, you definitely can perceive certain shit like planets and stuff like that. Like, even besides going out of body, there's telescopes. And with telescopes, you could literally buy a telescope right now and then look into space, and then you're gonna see a planet. But even then, when you do that, it kind of looks like water, and people say that, the water's above, water's below, and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there is validity to that for sure. Um, but what I did want to say is that I was always told about different terminologies for different things, right? Like, stars are dimensional spaces, as some of you guys may already know, and then planets are different worlds inside that dimensional space. Now it makes sense why they say it like that, because I've heard I've heard Arcturians say it like that, and I've also heard the architects of creation within inside of the sixth plane of existence say that. And I also learned that, because inside that conversation also, I was talking about how Arcturians might exist outside the construct, but really what it is, right, is to feel like Arcturians are definitely part of this construct. But a lot of the souls which will decide to inhabit an Arcturian body, a lot of those souls are connected to the architects within inside of the sixth plane of existence, which is why Arcturians are so big on things like time and stuff like that, and how things are structured. They're like some, like, the really smart ETs that actually understand certain structures that other ETs don't. Because even with the alchemist, right, he was telling me how, like, he don't even like talking to ETs because, like, yeah, they're more advanced than humans, but they don't have the full picture. So he'll talk to higher bigs. And I'm like, yo, I feel you on that shit. Because you guys may watch some of my videos. And inside some of my videos, I mentioned how you got to go beyond ET sometimes. You got to go beyond your spirit guides sometimes. You got to literally, like, access higher shit that's inside your spirit, and just, like, higher beings that exist in higher aspects of this construct and outside this construct, right? So with that being said, though, right, inside of, like, a dimensional space is a certain space, it's a certain area where dimensions are tuned differently, and with inside those areas there are smaller areas that certain beings, which is called a certain world, right? They don't really see it as a planet, it's a certain world. But you might perceive it as a planet when you're inside that vicinity. But even then, right? Like, once you go onto that world, it's kind of like I know. So I will say this, right? There have been times where I wanted to target a specific planet, and I really went to a certain place, right? But while going there, it felt like I entered into a whole new world. It wasn't like I was on a spaceship and I landed on the planet. It wasn't like that. It's like kind of like going through a portal. It felt like the planet itself could have been its own portal that made me end up in a certain place with inside of a greater dimensional space. You see? So with the experience I just had, that makes sense. Because, like I said, I was able to see certain stars, but not certain planets. I could only see the planets of our solar system. I couldn't see the other ones, which I knew, quote unquote, should have been there, right? But if I were to actually go to that star and end up inside that dimensional space, I would be able to experience the different worlds which exist inside of that space, right? So, yeah, that's kind of that. So that's like that's my take on the illusion of planets and kind of like how they actually work. Now I do want to say this. Damn. Yeah, nah, and I'm seeing 9/11 right now on my computer and shit like that. I think this is pretty accurate. Cuz what I was going to say is I'm not sure, cuz like you know how I mentioned how the planets in our solar system pretty much hold different aspects of the sun's energy and stuff like that. I was gonna say I don't know if it's really the same like that for other stars, but I think it is because the different worlds. So if you see it as a dimensional space, right? The different worlds within inside of that space are just different aspects of that space, right? So the answer is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it does work the same with other stars. Like that just came to me just now, and because I was just about to say that I don't know if it's like that, but I'm pretty sure that it is. If you're going, because like even with inside of and yeah, it's definitely like that for sure. Because even with inside of your own kingdoms, right? Because like your spirit exists inside of its own kingdom, we'll say, right? And then the different soul aspects which you have can exist inside their own provinces. And I do want to say this real quick. I might make a separate video on this, but there are certain spirits that don't choose to make multiple souls. They may have like 3 different souls and that's it. And like they'll gain a lot of experience through one soul. Somebody like me, I've split off into many different soul aspects. And that's because I wanted certain perspectives while I wanted certain clear perspectives when experiencing new things. So for example, right, within like my current soul is a combination of pretty much other souls which I've had before. But with certain experiences, right, I want it to be a clean soul that because so right now I could be on earth and with inside my soul because even like if you're like a regular clean soul, any soul can access the higher aspects of their spirit and the different lifetimes which their spirit has existed with inside of, right? They can all do that shit. But when you have a soul that has a specific template which carries specific aspects of your spirit, certain lifetimes influence you more than other lifetimes until you break beyond these lifetimes and go to the other ones. Already made a video about knowing the different aspects of yourself, and I kind of explained that concept already. So go see that video if you do it. The importance of knowing yourself, right? Watch that video for sure. But what I'm trying to say is, right, sometimes your spirit will make a new soul aspect that doesn't really bring information from other lifetimes. So that way, when it goes into an incarnation, it's a blank slate that can pretty much form a character based around whatever incarnation it's inside of at that period of time. Now, with that being said, the main point I'm trying to make is with inside of your own fuck with inside of your own kingdom, right? You can see it as like a realm, and you see it as like a galaxy, right? So your spirit has its own galaxy, and then your souls, right? The different soul aspects which you have, they have their own stars, and then inside those stars, there's different worlds or what you call planets, right? And every single world within inside of that star pretty much relates to different experiences which your soul has had in a certain lifetime. So, for example, right, I have had experiences as a Lyran. And when I go to the province within inside of my kingdom that deals with my Lyran aspect, there's different districts inside of that province which deal with different aspects of my Lyran incarnation. Because as a Lyran, I've been a feline being in different lifetimes, but while having multiple experiences as a Lyran, I've used the same soul for my Lyran experiences. You know what I'm trying to say? So different lifetimes, you could say, have their own planet inside that star. So my Lyran soul as a whole has a certain star, right? And I'm not speaking literally. I'm speaking in terms that could help you understand certain shit, right? My Lyran self has its own star, okay? And then every specific lifetime that I had as a Lyran is a different planet that is under that star. So those different planets are different Lyran versions of myself, but they're still a part of the greater soul of just being a Lyran in general. And then that Lyran soul is a part of my greater spirit that has had other lifetimes besides just being a Lyran. But the point I'm trying to make is, right, if it's like that with your own kingdom, it's definitely like that with other stars and planets. So pretty much when it comes to certain dimensional spaces, every single world inside that space is just a smaller aspect of that greater dimensional space. Every single planet that is under a star is just a smaller aspect of the totality of that star. With my Lyran province, right? Every single district with my Lyran star, every single planet under it is just a different aspect of my Lyran incarnations. So it's the same exact shit. Long story short, I hope that made sense, bro. If it didn't, it is what it is. But I hope I can help some of you guys understand this whole planet stuff and like what those really are and why they're an illusion because they only exist within inside of the construct, and even when you perceive them you're not even perceiving like how they really are. Like the way we think about them is like so wrong. I don't want to say so wrong, but it's definitely not correct. I won't say so wrong that like we just got it all fucked up. Maybe certain shit we got is correct, but I just know that we need to see planets in a higher way, and that they have some kind of existence, but they're only holographic projections of a star, and that they carry different aspects of the totality of the star which they're under. And when you really just say it as dimensional spaces and worlds, it makes it so much easier. There's says different worlds inside of a certain space, and those worlds are different aspects of that space. You know? There's different flavors you can experience inside that space, but it's like you have ice cream, different flavors. Ice cream's a dimensional space, and every single world inside that space is a different flavor of ice cream. But guess what? It's still ice cream, just a different flavor. You know. So yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna explain that. I think that that's the best way I can explain that, and I kind of want to go back to that place. Hopefully, my dad could take me there again. But also, a part of me feels like I won't go back there for a good period of time. Maybe mainly because I likely saw everything which I kind of have to see, and probably just tapping into that experience, I can probably get certain downloads from it, even while not being there again. So there's probably going to be other things I got to learn, and I can't be attached to one experience. You know, that's kind of how I've seen things in my life for a good period of time anyway. So this video is coming to its end. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like this video, subscribe if you're new. I love y'all. I'm going to catch you in my next video. Peace, the freak.